We're live.
Hey, we're live.
Hey. What's happening, people?
Here we are, yet again.
On the couch.
On the couch.
Where we talk about any and everything mental health.
Mental health and everything else.
And y'all know mental health matters, so this is why we're here today. So I guess we're gonna wait till
a couple
people coming in. I think it's my sister's coming in.
How do you always know who's coming in?
I see a picture up there. What's up, sis?
Damien's fan base is amazing.
What you
It
mean?
is a fan base.
We're a community. We support each other.
Well, your fans sell it, the conversation.
That's another classmate right there.
I see that. Hey,
What's
classmates.
What's up, Lucretia? Good seeing
Was
you last
she at
weekend.
okay,
Yes,
she was there.
Yes, absolutely, absolutely. We had a ball. We had a ball.
Hey, these are all your people. Okay, great.
They
So now that Damien's people are here, we can start.
Why I gotta be like that?
Hey,
Why
it's always like that.
You're always starting early.
Your
so
people hop
early.
on. I know that's right.
I mean,
I respect
when we
it.
say 6 o'clock, we don't work on CP. Well, we do work on CP sometimes.
They're on time though. They're ready.
Yeah. But I'm coming off my birthday, so I'm feeling pretty good. I appreciate all my family and my friends for wishing me happy birthday. I felt like a superstar yesterday, honestly.
What'd you do on your birthday?
On my birthday, I actually relaxed a little bit yesterday just because I had a full weekend.
Mm-hmm. You're smiling a little bit behind that.
Yes.
You had a full
and
weekend.
And
What'd you
my
do
love
over the
bug,
weekend?
my honeybee.
Ooh, love bug. I know that's right. Hey, girl.
She kind of.
My love bug.
Well, her nickname is Honeybee.
I know. I
so,
saw that. I saw that.
That's where I get the bug from.
Okay.
That type of thing. But
Okay.
we went out to dinner, had a great time.
Mm-hmm.
As always, it's all good. But enough about me. Let's talk about y'all.
Oh, that was exciting. Okay, so
It was
let's talk
nice.
about. Okay, well, let's talk about what we came here to discuss because we only
Right.
have a limited time.
Right. What's up, Sydney? What's up, Mikkel? Appreciate y'all tuning in. How's everything? Go ahead. What we
Yeah,
talking
they're
about
not going to
today?
respond. I don't know if they're going to respond to that directly.
What you mean?
We are talking about domestic violence
Yes.
and intimate partner violence.
Yes, because this month, October, is Domestic Violence Awareness Month. So we're going to have several weeks of discussing things regarding domestic violence and the impact that it has on our community as a whole.
Okay.
So I guess that we can go ahead and kind of just get in. And if y'all have any questions, please feel free to drop a line on the live. Type it down. We'll try our best to kind of give y'all a whatchamacallit. Oh, hey, what's up, y'all? What's up, Mikkel? Appreciate y'all tuning in. All that good stuff. Yeah.
I'm just pulling it up here so I can read the comments.
Yeah.
Okay.
So you gonna handle all the comments and stuff?
If you don't mind, I can do it from my
Okay.
phone right here.
With
yeah,
your
while
iPhone?
we're going.
Which
Yeah.
iPhone? Okay.
Yeah. My
Whatever.
iPhone.
Whatever.
Oh, Jesus. Okay.
But anyway.
All right, here we go.
What in your definition, layman's terms, what is the domestic violence to you or intimate partner violence to you? What does it mean to you?
I would say the nucleus and the summary of domestic violence in my professional frame of mind would be any kind of action towards somebody which can cause fear, a sense of wanting to control,
Right.
and
That's a good thing.
taking them away from their natural element
Right.
in order to remain in control.
Absolutely.
So emotional, physical, body language, anything threatening. Threatening meaning makes you feel like you have to second guess what you would naturally do.
Right. Your
Okay,
natural
so that's my
responses. Right.
long
Right.
explanation. But yeah, that's how I see it.
I kind of see it the same way. Domestic violence or intimate partner violence is not only from a physical standpoint, but definitely from an emotional and psychological standpoint, which is way more difficult to gauge. Like you can definitely see someone who's been a victim of domestic violence physically if they're in a severe situation, but from an emotional standpoint, they're often overlooked because they don't display those behaviors for the most part, because they are so isolated, or they're disconnecting themselves from their usual
The norm.
the norm. So anything that, like you said, is when you place your control over someone else in a relationship, whether that be physical, social, economical, definitely controlling could definitely be known as domestic violence. Absolutely.
I would also say that from a diagnostic perspective, individuals who carry narcissistic tendencies.
Yes. Yes.
If you're dating a narcissist, more than likely, more often than not, you've been engaging in some type of domestic violence banter. Some behavior that makes you question yourself, think twice about your decisions.
Right.
There's some kind of control going on there.
It's something that you feel like
mentally,
they have over you.
Yes.
Whether that's
like
from an economic standpoint, whether the male or the female is the breadwinner, because it's not all men or the abusers.
Right.
It's definitely
Thank you.
From a woman's standpoint as well. But if you're the main breadwinner, you feel like you can control your spouses or your partners going in and coming out, and those types of things, and what they could buy and how they should look and how they should behave, and all those different types of things. That's definitely a huge form of domestic violence, and that's normally the ones that we don't see as much. We see the ones that and I've volunteered and I've been at the battered women's shelter, homeless shelters, things like that, but we don't normally see the ones that suffer in silence because they don't have those external bruises.
Right.
But internally they're bruised, to the nth degree.
I think there's also an emphasis on part of the definition that you came up with, that individuals using people and other things to leverage your emotions are basically domestically violent.
Right.
They are abusive in some way. That's some kind of abuse. A lot of people use children, like in their relationships.
Absolutely.
Or they use the children as pawns, just as weapons almost.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
Have you ever witnessed? I think this is maybe outside of the scope of our outline that we have, but have you ever experienced or witness some type of domestic violence, and how did it impact you if you did? I mean, I guess this is kind of like self-disclosure a little bit.
Yes, it is.
But,
for
the emphasis
let's keep it real. Let's keep it real. Okay, let me challenge myself to totally keep it real. I have, and I'm not going to say that my experience with a domestic violence situation is all somebody else's fault.
Right.
I think at times we lower our expectations, we change our expectations, and often women are very guilty of falling in love and then wanting to change certain things to make someone happy or to be pleasing. We are pleasers by nature, so we may not see it so much as changing who we are, and we're doing so much in that realm. We don't see it as that. We may just see it as, this is harmless, I'm helping. And in reality, you could be hurting, establishing, actually losing boundaries, right?
Yeah.
Like your boundaries start to come down.
Absolutely.
And then there's a new treatment that's going on towards you.
Right.
And then you're like, hey, I don't recognize this person. But in reality, it's really you that help to assist at times in aiding. I'm sorry, it's kind of like aiding and abetting. In a negative situation.
Right.
Because if we're not in it, we can't be abused. Well, that's how I look at it. If we're not there and participating, then we are not being abused. So we got to be there first.
Right.
So I have been in situations where I have the emotional manipulation.
Right.
A lot of it.
I think I myself haven't been a perpetrator per se, to a certain extent. I think, like you said, we all have to take accountability in our interactions, whether it's with our partner or just social situations. But looking back at certain situations in my past where I've been triggered, or it's been initiated, and it's like, what you're gonna do? You're the guy, and earlier on, I'm like, I might go to jail, if I do it. And at this point in my life, I'm like, I'm not gonna respond in that particular way because I have a whole lot to lose. Licensure,
Yeah.
you know, kids, all these different types of things. So situations have risen in my life to where that could have been an outcome. I, of course, witnessing domestic violence, just where I grew up at, I've seen that regularly, and I think it does necessarily, it has an impact on how you view the world and how you view how your relationship should be to a certain extent, whether you're going to go with that particular flow or you're going to go totally opposite and say, okay, I know this is wrong. I'm definitely not going to get myself in this particular situation to where I have to respond that particular way.
I was in the same situation. I think I was in my early 20s. I'm talking 21,
Right.
22.
Right.
And, you know, I was with a long-term boyfriend, and he got angry and I got angry, and I wasn't thinking about consequences. I just kind of was pushing buttons on purpose. Sometimes we do that. I was doing that. 15 years ago, I was pushing buttons on purpose. So there it is. I pushed the buttons. And so it was kind of like,
okay,
now what you gonna do now? And I just assumed nothing, you know. And so at a point where I was aggressive and almost taunting.
Right.
It was almost taunting.
Right.
Okay, it was taunting. I was taunting. I need to
Hey,
keep it totally real.
Elise.
I was taunting. Oh, hey, girl.
checking in.
Okay.
Yeah.
Like while I'm talking?
Yeah. Hey.
Y'all need to save it.
Whatever.
Okay,
Cut
so
it out.
listen. So anyway, so basically I was taunting, and at some point
So
he
you
grabbed
taunting-
my
you
elbow.
taunting
I
me
wasn't
now?
not like that. Well,
Okay.
I am taunting you. Look, and don't put your hands on people when you're going back and forth. Oh. what
The
did you
original
say?
question was,
Oh.
what is domestic violence in our
Yeah, what is it?
layman's
What does it
terms?
look like?
What does it look
And
like?
we're talking about the fact that it doesn't have to be necessarily physical, right? It could just be, it's the way that somebody takes you out of your realm, uses control,
Right.
emotional control, physical
Right.
control, whatever.
Coercion. Definitely.
But basically, the point is that he grabbed my elbow,
Uh-huh.
and I could see in his face that he knew, he was thinking that if I
Right.
have to grab you to calm you down, we got to stop dating.
Right.
And it was
Absolutely.
a 5-year relationship, and after that, maybe a week after that, he called me and said, I thought about it, and I cannot completely have control over myself while you are taunting me like that, so since I know you can get there,
Right.
I'm a step away from that. And
Yeah.
we're friends now, and have had these discussions, but that was
Yeah.
very childish and immature.
If I gotta
in
put
my early
hands on
20s.
you, if I feel like that thought comes into my head that I have to put hands on you to de-escalate a situation, I don't need to be with you. Like seriously, like the whole knives and busting windows out my car and slashing tires and all that.
Windows at
We
your
we're
car.
not doing that. We're not doing
It's
that.
one of my favorites. It's insane though, but it's one of my favorite songs.
Yes.
Yeah, I don't agree with that. So at least we're just kind of letting you guys know, just sharing that when you feel yourself elevating, you need to catch yourself.
Yes.
Because that can lead, the anger and the frustration, the emotions can lead you to a point where you're domestically violating somebody without putting your hands on them. Words.
Yeah.
The words.
Words are
Yeah.
powerful. So
Sure.
I, of course, I'm a numbers guy and I like stats and stuff like that. And I found that this to be very alarming. And it said every minute, 20 people are a victim of domestic violence. Like that's crazy. And it's more than like, I guess, what did it say? Like 10 million men and women over a span of a year are a victim. And that's astonishing. Like that's crazy. Wow. Slut, you processing right now?
I am. Well, I need to think
What's your
about.
thoughts right there?
I don't
Let
always
me
have
catch
an
that
immediate
thought.
comment.
I'm in a therapy moment.
Oh,
I'm
my
in a
goodness.
therapy moment. What are your thoughts that took you there just now? Because you went somewhere. What were you thinking just now?
I was thinking
Understand
I was thinking that at some point or another, everyone who's chiming in, you know, on the comments has probably been in a domestically violent situation.
Right. I mean,
At
it's
some
definitely-
point, at one point,
Right.
one relationship at some time or another may have been emotionally manipulative. Someone may have been controlling, using your emotional vulnerability as a pawn.
Right.
I know I have been used in that way
Right.
many times. And sometimes we allow ourselves to be victimized with that.
And it says that 1 in 3 women and 1 in 4 men have been a victim of some form of physical or domestic violence in their lifetime with their partner.
And that's just what's reported, actually.
And that's just what's reported. So I'm pretty sure it's significantly higher.
I read somewhere that a significant amount of the people that actually come into the ED, the emergency room, reporting domestic violence leave with head trauma. I read that today.
Wow.
And that's just the ones that are kind of brave enough to report somebody hit me or this is what happened.
Right.
But I think they said, what did I say, 70%? Is that the number I just gave? Okay,
Something
I don't even
like
remember. I don't remember. You're staring at me. I'm like, is that? Okay. Whatever percentage I just gave, 70, I think it's 70% of individuals who report domestic violence in the emergency room have suffered head trauma.
Right.
So I was a little startled by those statistics.
Let me see what they're talking about on the couch out there. At least says a lot of people don't know how to handle their anger or was taught to handle it in that capacity, and it becomes a norm. So yeah, we if we witness it, and we're going to go into that a little bit further as well in regards to how it affects children. I guess that's a good segue with that particular comment as to how we learn how to handle domestic violence situations or that anger that is exhibited in those particular situations. So what's your thoughts on that as far as both of us being therapists and have seen children that has exhibited, different types of behaviors? How important is it for us to get that information in regards to family background, how it looks like in the home? Have they experienced any type of trauma or witnessed any type of trauma? Because that's what domestic violence is, and witnessing it, it's a traumatic experience. I don't know if people out there have experienced it in some way, shape, form, or fashion in my upbringing. Of course, mom and dad have those arguments, those late night arguments that they don't want us to hear or see. But growing up where we grew up at, my room was like right there, so I can like see and hear everything. Okay. So of course it kind of impacted me in a certain aspect. But in regards to long term as well as short term, how do you feel like it affects children?
Well, I'm so glad you went back to your question, because after you asked the question, you went into this elaborate, articulate response, and I was so engulfed in that. I was wondering if you would repeat the question. So actually, I need you to repeat it again after I said that. So what did you ask me?
How does domestic violence or intimate partner violence
children in the home?
Children? Short term, long term, we can kind of...
Okay, so I'm just going to go short term off what I've seen based on the kids that I counsel.
Okay.
Usually I can get the parent to inform me whether or not the kid has seen any kind of acts of domestic violence in the home. Whether they have heard yelling, screaming, someone push someone down, or whatnot. Because you know what? It's the first action that the parents report. He's yelling, he's talking back to me, he's doing this.
Exactly.
And then I ask, is there anywhere that he could have seen that or picked that up from in the home? Usually the parent will tell me and his father this, or his uncle gets loud and whatever. And then at some point the child will actually tell me, my mom and dad are doing this. Or my mom yells at me all the time. And I find that the direct short-term effect of kids experiencing that type of domestic violence. Remember, domestic violence is not just grabbing somebody. It can be the yelling and emotional, kind of manipulation. So when I'm hearing about that type of domestic violence in the home, you see I'm looking at you, Damien, and they're looking like she's looking at him and he's looking away. Okay. It's not undivided attention.
Okay.
But anyway, but you asked me a question.
You got it.
So I just find that the kids are picking up directly what they see their parents doing or someone else doing in the home. If there's a sibling, yes, thank you, learn behavior. Thank you. I don't have to talk so much.
Thanks,
learn behavior. Exactly. There it is. Of the environment.
Yeah. So short and sweet. Learn behavior.
Okay, thank you. Short and sweet. You are not short and sweet.
So in regard, as far as how it affects children, to me, when you see that difference or that change in their mood, and like we discussed last week, as far as the decline in certain things, as far as academics, social activities, they may start to become more aggressive themselves, or actually start to bully, or be a victim of bullying because they've seen it firsthand. So there are a lot of different things that could come as a result of being a witness, as well as being a victim of the domestic violence in children. It can go both ways. Like for girls, if they've witnessed that, they may tend to shut down and put that wall up to where they don't allow guys in that deep because they're in fear of having that same thing happen to them. Or they may become more aggressive and they may say, well, I'm going to use you before you get a chance to use me, and just be straight up, just out there and just engage in high risky behaviors, whether that's substance abuse or sex or whatever the case may be. So it can go both ways.
Well, also let's touch on how different kids in the house respond differently to the trauma of domestic abuse, right?
Yes.
Like you've got the kid who you can sit with for 10 minutes and realize he's been traumatized, right? Then you've got another kid who's so nonchalant, is closed off, won't give you the answers that you're looking for, won't tell you anything. Hey, everything's okay, everything's fine. It may be level of maturity. It may be they're doing something else.
That norm.
Or they may be doing something else that you can't see. They may be cutting behind a closed door.
Right.
Or some type of bodily manipulation that no one can see to relieve themselves of the emotional distress. So it's not always being angry at school and being disruptive. Sometimes it's the kid that's saying nothing.
That's internalizing everything.
Or the kid that's acting perfect at school.
Right.
Because they want a different type of response. Because often when somebody's being abused in the home, a parent's being abused in the home, some kind of way it trickles down to the kids. Absolutely. It doesn't have to be direct abuse to the kids.
Absolutely.
But it's trickled down in some type of way, whether the kid's picking up on a depressed parent or they're scared to leave their room. They're isolated. They may become vibrant because they isolate at home. Yeah, so those times of kids present as nothing is going on. Because I find that a lot of teachers and people that work with kids have contacted me saying a lot of the kids seem completely complacent. Everything's great. And then I find out when I visit the home that there's something completely disruptive at home. So I would say there's opposites there as far as how kids respond.
And again, it goes back to if you're an educator, administrator, social worker, in this human service field, knowing your child, knowing the person that you're seeing, and being able to understand when they're covering something up versus that's just their norm. What do we got? What do we got as far as comments?
I mean, Elise was saying...
It's going.
Elise was saying, I watched my mom commit to being abused for over 20 years. As a child, it affected me greatly because my mom never stood up for herself, which made me feel that she was trapped and silenced her voice. Oof. Okay.
Yeah. That definitely happens. And as far as like with younger kids, like toddlers and things like that, they're affected as well.
Oh yeah.
In regards to their developmental progress, maybe potty training, they may start bedwetting.
Oh, I was gonna say peeing on themselves, and not just the toddlers.
Yes.
The older kids, the enuresis. That's what it. Come on, counselor.
I didn't want to
Use
put.
the clinical terms.
I didn't want to put the clinical term out there for the people.
They need to know.
Enuresis.
They can.
Yes.
Okay.
Peeing in bed. Yes.
Peeing in bed can happen at any age.
Sleeping problems, excessive irritability, all those things. Really snappy. When you're normally not, you're just easygoing. But when you're dealing with things and witnessing all these things, it kind of it comes out any type, whatever type of way it's going to come out.
It's absorbed.
Yes, it's going to come out eventually, whether it's through your peeing in the bed or your behavior or.
So why are you smiling when you say peeing in the bed? People do pee in the bed at all ages. I worked with a kid about 12 years old that was peeing in the bed. And
I've had several.
At school he wasn't having accidents, but at home he was.
Yes.
So that also, it set off my, alarms where, all right, something's going on at home where he's fearful. He may not want to leave his room. That may be why he's peeing in the bed. It could be not wanting to leave his room. It could be just the trauma. What?
They hoard like their underwear. They put them like in inconspicuous places, and you just walk in the room and it just smells
hiding their underwear.
Absolutely.
Because they also don't want to deal with the consequence of having peed in their clothes
from the perpetrator or the parent or whatever the case may be. So it's a full cycle.
So maybe next week we'll talk about enuresis and peeing in the bed because we obviously like this topic. Moving on to the next area of discussion.
So that was more so short term. Long term, how do you feel like violence affects children long term? As going into adulthood and being a victim or witnessing domestic violence as a...
Okay, so let me just speak from the older women that I counsel, who, because this is coming to mind now when you're saying, I'm envisioning actual people.
Right.
Right. I envision women with... Now let me preface this so you guys understand. I'm not generalizing what you see in every woman who's been abused. Right. I'm telling you from my experience as a therapist what I have seen consistently in the female persuasion that's been abused. Right. So I see depression, anxiety, overcompensating with people pleasing.
Right.
I see lack of ability to show vulnerability.
Our emotions, periodly, they just become flat.
Yeah. How you gonna comment on what I see?
I'm just adding in.
I'm taunting. So.
Oh God.
Damien always does it. So let me finish, counselor.
Yes.
So what I'm saying is that a lot of depression, a lot of anxiety, a lot of trauma that they don't recognize.
Right.
The people pleasing inability to have limits on people pleasing. Right? To say no.
Right.
A lot of these women don't want to say no.
Right.
And, it's not till we're in the session where I say, you have a real problem saying no, that the tears start coming. And then I start hearing about the childhood abuse or what they saw. Right. Or my mom was jerked around. Right. Or such and such was drunk all the time and I hid in my room. So, things like that. Yeah?
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Marcus Tate was saying something. I think he's saying something very enlightening.
He's saying long term they can become what they saw. They accept being abused like they don't have a choice. Or the abuse thinking in the form of communication of love. They actually think it's love because it was so normal, it's a sad state. So that's also, it ties into what I'm saying as far as becoming what they saw. They become a victim, but they don't see that. Right. Really. They're just trying to do something so different, not realizing they're still in the cycle.
Still in it.
Yeah.
And it happens, definitely. So definitely going into adulthood, you tend to see a little bit more of the substance abuse, the delinquency as far as behavior-wise, as being a juvenile. They may incur some type of legal issues, something like that. And these are just generics. This is not something that, this is going to happen if you experience, or witness domestic violence. But more so often than not, you're going to experience some type of adverse effect from that. Whether that's you tend to block out everyone, or begin to show a lack of empathy for other people. Emotionally, you just shut yourself completely off, or you become really okay. Are you keeping the time?
Yeah.
You can say it. You can say it to the people.
I am the timekeeper. It's 6:32.
Okay, that's cool. We good.
Okay,
I got
go
you.
ahead, dear.
It's up there somewhere. It's not. I was lying. I'm looking at it on my computer over here. I'm looking.
They got the nice close up.
I got you.
Okay, go ahead.
Was your makeup type? Makeup artist? Hey.
Okay, go ahead.
You off the chain today.
It's just, it flows. Now, what you were saying?
But also, just from an emotional standpoint, they do experience the emotional distress, the fear of being alone, but actually wanting to be alone out of that fear. So it's like a conundrum sometimes. Like you don't want to be alone, but you do want to be alone because of that single fear, whether that's a boyfriend or that's a father, that's aggressive, or a mother. You tend to do one or the other. It's usually kind of weird.
Okay.
But yeah, you have a fear of being alone, but you want to be alone because you have that shame and that guilt associated with trauma.
I would say that if you are an adult and you know that you have gone through a situation like that in your childhood, it might be a good idea to start therapy now. If you're currently married, this would be a very good time to start it before it winds up. These old things surface in your marriage if they haven't already.
Sis. You can keep going.
David always does this while I'm talking. That's abuse.
It's abuse? I'm taking advantage of you. I'm using my control. Doing.
I'm going to try to think of it and then talk about it next week. Anyway, he's using a position of control right now. I forgot what I was saying. Thanks.
Yeah, sure.
Does anybody have any comments or questions or anything to add?
Oh my God.
I think the major point is that we wanted to address what this looks like. We want to address what it can look like when children are coming to school, displaying certain types of behaviors, what may be going on at home, and how this may resonate with individuals in different ways. I think the emotional part of it is such a major thing to focus on because we take that for granted. You think it's just an argument, but your kid is becoming traumatized.
My sister said that was rude, so I apologize online.
Thank you.
For cutting you off.
I appreciate that. Our viewers are looking out for me.
What's up,
As
Doc?
always.
Doc checking in with us. But again, there are definitely some misconceptions in regards to domestic violence and intimate partner violence. And one of those misconceptions that we had already brought up was the misconception that men are not, have violence, thrown our way. We're not the victims. We're always the perpetrator. When that's totally not
stereotypically.
The case. Yeah, stereotypically, that's just a misconception.
Well, some women taunt men under the preconceived notion that he'll never come back at me.
Right.
So
Absolutely.
then it becomes consistency and taunting. And some men do not step away from the relationship when they start to see the taunting, which is the problem. Men step away from these women.
And it's, the crazy thing is, like, it starts out, we see the signs early on, and we be like, oh, she's just crazy. She's just wilding out. Like, that's cute. You know what I'm saying? You popping off and in my face and all. It's cute early on.
Is this what we're doing?
Yeah, like, you know what I'm saying? But after several months, you continue to do it, like, hold on. Like, this is becoming too real.
Wait, also, as I said in the beginning, you are a participant.
Yes,
You're not always a victim.
Absolutely.
If you have, look, if y'all men are in relationships with women who are, let me demonstrate, can you look at me? Who are doing all this when they mad and you wanna and all this, that.
You got touched though.
Then if they're doing that, then this is taunting. This is walking into a dangerous situation because one day it's just gonna build up. And you're going to have a physical response if you haven't already. And it's not just going to be grabbing her arm and moving it.
Right.
You will have built up an aggression that you didn't naturally have.
Absolutely.
And so that becomes, it's already domestically violent once she's pushing your head.
Right.
Or she's up in your face doing all this.
Right.
Sorry. Oof, I put too much effort into the hair today.
Right.
But anyway, once she's doing all that, that's domestically violent. Okay? So it's okay to stop the conversation and say, hey, you being a little violent right now. You being a little extra, so I'm gonna walk away from this and give myself some time. Then you figure out whether you think that it's going to show over time, whether it can diminish.
Right.
And if it doesn't, then you get the hell out of there.
My sister brought up a great point. She said it's really difficult to get men or women to open up about domestic violence abuse. Just in the open forum, saying that you are a victim or you've been a perpetrator, unless it's in a closed setting like a couch.
Okay.
So
wait a minute. Let me interject, because this is what we're talking about. We're not really talking about domestic abuse in this. We got to keep reminding ourselves that it's not really domestic violence of people keeping it secret because it's this physical thing, they're being harmed, right? Most of us, we're talking to our friends every day, talking about how, and then she snapped off, and then she put a hand in my face. I mean, that is your friend expressing actually that they're on the path to domestic violence. So a lot of times we just need to be also educated on what these things look like, how they start, and then what they can grow into before they get there. So a lot of times, we're talking about it.
Yeah, absolutely. So definitely check in with your friends. Check in. See how they're doing and actually listen to the words that they're not speaking. Because that's generally how it happens. They may have that one person that knows, but she's swore to not tell anyone, that type of thing.
I have opinions about those type of friends who say, if you're getting your butt whooped, I'm not going to tell anybody. I don't know how that qualifies as a good friend, but that is for another segment.
Yes, and like I said at the beginning of this week's segment, we will be doing several back-to-back segments in regards to domestic violence. I'm working on an actual speaker, presenter, someone to join us on the couch that is more proficient and specializes in that, sir. Expertise is domestic violence advocacy. So hopefully on next week we'll be having her on the couch to kind of discuss some of those things, as well as discussing resources in your local area, nationally, as well as locally here in Charlotte or in the North Carolina area, to where you can reach out for the assistance if you're not seeing a therapist, or because most people that have experienced this type of abuse and want to get out, they don't know where they can go. They feel like they're trapped. Like, okay, I haven't been working on this particular long time, and if I leave, I don't have any money. I don't have nowhere to go. I'll be homeless. And sometimes they just leave in that particular situation due to the fear of being out cold, not having any support. So definitely, we'll try to get her in next week to discuss different resources. But it's also important that you develop your own natural support system outside of that one person, your partner. Develop a core group of people that you can confide in, and discuss different things, and link with people, develop those relationships, and that's what domestic violence does. It pulls you away from that particular aspect of developing and connecting with people outside of them.
Sure.
Because they want that control. So I say F it and do it anyway.
You say F it.
Yeah, just connect with people, because you never know. That person may leave you still high and dry. They may go to the next person when they've used you up, So you always got to plan ahead in that regard, and plan for your safety, and a good way to get out of that particular situation. It's never going to be the right time.
I think we should talk about safety plans next week too.
Yes,
so
absolutely.
Whether we have our guest or not, maybe she can also help us with that. We need to talk about the safety plans and the things that you need to see in order to know when it's time for you to start moving away from a relationship, because the safety plan doesn't have to be for a crisis.
Exactly.
The safety plan could be, these are the things that if I start seeing in any relationship with a man, I'm going to be very aware that it's time to move away. I know, but I would say a man, because I'm a woman.
I'm just saying.
A man or a woman, these are the things.
We have different, you know what I'm saying?
I'm going to engage in a little more taunting. So since we're almost done, basically, I'm through with Damien right now. He's talking over me, and he's encouraging me to taunt him. So I can't, I'm about to...
I don't have that much control.
That's true. I'm allowing it.
Yes, absolutely. So you have to take accountability for that.
Ooh. Somebody earned their license. Ooh, it's getting hot up in here under these lights. Okay, so we're so glad that you guys tuned in. Thank you so much. If you're looking for any resources on domestic violence, we were discussing the fact that you could definitely just Google in your state what's available, because I found that from state to state, everything is different. There should be a laundry list of things you can do and people you can reach out to as an immediate resource.
Absolutely. In crisis situations or not in crisis situations?
Not in crisis situations.
Definitely address the physical and things that you can handle. The emotional aspect, definitely, I would always tell you to seek out a therapist to process some of those emotions, so you don't take that emotional baggage to your next relationship.
Or if you're in it, and like I said, if you know that you've experienced some type of abuse, like in your childhood or something like that, it is really a matter of time before it surfaces and just comes out. A lot of people I see seek therapy. A lot of people I see seek therapy, and they come with one issue, and it's like announced to them that eventually it's going to come out that they watched some type of domestic abuse, they engaged in, or they currently engage in. So absolutely. That's important.
Very important. Definitely some good information. Again, this whole month of October is Domestic Violence Awareness Month, so each of our episodes and our sessions will be linked somehow to domestic violence and raising awareness and making sure that everyone has the knowledge base in order to make sound decisions in regards to their relationships, family, all those good things. So just stay tuned next week and the week thereafter, here on the couch, as we talk about those things, and your mental health matters. You know,
as we sway out of the video. Oh, it's time to go. All right. Well, thank you all for tuning in. Go to the Couch 704 on YouTube and subscribe to the channel. And please share this on your page in efforts to reach any and everyone that may know someone or be suffering from some type of domestic violence.
Absolutely. Just share it. And I promise you, the people that it's affecting, they will definitely appreciate it and follow through with the resources and things that are needed. And if they need to directly hit us up, they can do that as well. Comments, concerns, all those different types of things, ideas. I'm in a good space right now.
With his hands.
It's post-birthday attitude right now. It's post.
I'm feeling it. I'm feeling it.
It's that Libra vibe that you're getting.
Okay,
right
I can.
now.
All right.
It is what it is.
All right, 6:45. We're cutting it a few minutes short today, so thank you guys for tuning in, and we'll see you next week on the couch.
Yes, ma'am. See y'all.
Bye.